Join us.
What up? Welcome back once again to the Necro Zoo. I am Bones. And in this one, we're going to go ahead and add a bunch of figures to my McFarlane DC Multiverse collection. Now, these figures do come to me from Talker Art. Now, he has his own YouTube channel. I've actually been following him way before I started doing figure videos, and he's actually rubbed off on me in a bunch of ways. In collecting, whenever you have two heads, you like to display both heads, so you have to buy extra figures. Also, he's shown me that pinless technology is very beautiful. Here you have a Nightwing from Mattel that uses pinless technology. So that is something that he always goes to bat for. And I do think that he had a little bit to do with Legends actually starting to move towards pinless technology, because he's been harping on them for years. Now, that is another thing, is that pretty much Talker Art is a channel where no shits are given. He does not care. He does not kiss any company's butts. He always gives an honest review and an honest look at the figures from his perspective. So that has also rubbed off on me. Now, another thing is that he has said before that you don't need to ask for subs. You don't need to ask for to hit the like button. And that is why I never do that. I have never done that on a video, because if people like your videos, they'll, do what they need to do to follow you. So your channel speaks for itself. Now, he's a really cool guy. He has one of the biggest, most awesome figure collections. He's been collecting for a long time. He also got me back into getting some of the retro Spawn figures from McFarlane, where I started hunting them down because of his video where he shows his complete Spawn collection, where he has, basically 99% of all the original Spawn figures from McFarlane. So, really cool guy. Now, he did make a video where he was giving away these figures that he received from McFarlane. So, through way of him, now I have them. Now, he did say that you had to have your own YouTube channel and to send him a video showing your channel. Now, I did send him my awesome display of figures, also my custom McFarlane figures, and also that I actually collect McFarlane also in package. So that is the triple effect. Usually I end up buying 3 figures from McFarlane. So graciously, he sent me the figures, which was awesome. Now, I am going to do this kind of differently than my normal reviews, because I'm going to try and knock them all out in this one video. So let's go ahead and get into it. First off, we do have General Zod. Now, this one's going to be real quick because I already reviewed this. You can look on my channel and take a look at the review. So basically, there's not a lot of difference. Now, one thing I did want to do is I've been aching to take off this cape, because I want to see how it looks without the cape. Looks pretty good. I mean, I am going to customize this one. Now, what I will do is add some red eyes, some shading to the face, and then paint up his armor with a little bit more detail, kind of like the statues that are of this design of General Zod, just to give it a little bit more life. So that's going to be pretty fun to get into. But like I said before, you can check out my review of this figure on my channel. But first up, we will be taking a look at the gold edition of the McFarlane designed Wonder Woman. Now, she does come with your standard black DC Multiverse stand. She also comes with her data file card, figure photography, and on the back you do have some information. She does come with some accessories, which is her big broadsword, her shield, and her lasso, which this time it is more like an attachment to wrap around another figure, which is pretty sweet. Now, we have received this figure before, which was the original version right here. Now, there is a little bit of differences, like in the color of the weapons. These are more bronze, and the original is a little bit more gold. But all in all, besides putting them together and checking out the differences in the paint, there's different parts that do not have the brass color, and then vice versa. These don't have some brass color and these have it on this one. So it's basically the same figure, just with a little bit different paint work. Now, one thing I do want to point out is that she actually should have more visible flesh, which I did paint mine, the original one, with a little bit more of the suit panels painted in flesh. You could still do a lot more to make her, more scantily clad, but she is really nice looking. I like the color. I did add a rolled up lasso from like another Wonder Woman that I had for fodder, because she does have the same loop. So you can actually add this one and she'll have her lasso. So you could put her however you want. The shield slides on the same way. And then, of course, the sword fits in her hand. Now, before we move on, let's go ahead and take a look at her next to some other Wonder Woman. You do have my custom Last Night on Earth Wonder Woman with the Dr. Fate helmet and some different paint. She is still a really nice figure. Then let's take a look at her next to my repainted Death Metal Wonder Woman, which I did all in silver. Pretty cool, different design for Wonder Woman with her chainsaw of truth. Then let's take a look at her with my custom unhelmeted armored Wonder Woman from the 1984. Pretty nice. So all in all, pretty cool addition to the collection. Now, it is just a variation of the first one that was released, but if you are a completist as I am, you do need her in your collection. And I just might have to tackle adding more skin panels to the costume of this one, just to give her that more sought after look. So I'll be looking into doing that. Now, coming up next, we do have the Aquaman. Now, I've really been looking forward to taking a look at this guy. He does come with your standard black DC Multiverse stand. He comes with his data file card. Love that shark in the figure photography, and on the back you do have some information. He comes with one accessory, which is his trident. Pretty nice trident. Now, it doesn't have too much paint on it or sculpt work, but it does have it where it needs it, like here on the grip and at the tip. So, and it is pretty sturdy, so it is an alright trident. Now let's take a look at this guy. He is the long-haired version with the beard, which is pretty much more recently in the comics. This is the way he looks. I'd like to take a look at certain things, like you could see that they're really working on the shoulder joints here. You get a lot of movement up and down and front to back. Of course, they did sculpt in the scales to his uniform. Pretty much nice articulation. Now, another thing I did notice was that this guy has really nice ab crunch, and he can also lean back very nicely. So they're working on that articulation. Now, I do not really like thigh cuts because of the way they break up the sculpt. Now, if you could hide the sculpt really well, like where there's a cut line, then I do not mind it. But on a figure like this, where it's just a solid leg, it just to me looks really unappealing to have a thigh cut there. But what is good for us is that he actually has a really good thigh swivel where you get a lot of rotation in the hip. So there is no need for that thigh cut because he already has a pretty good range of articulation in the hip. Now, another thing that I haven't seen before on these figures that I'm glad to start seeing is that they've actually worked on the ankle ball joints where they are no longer a round ball. They actually have a cut to where the silhouette of the leg just flows straight down into the feet. So it's more like of an oval shaped joint, but you still get the up and down rotation and the rocker. And actually it works a lot smoother than the ball joint. So this is where innovation has come in and actually given us nicer and better working articulation from McFarlane. Really love to see that. Now you can get his trident in his hand. Looks really good. All in all, really nice figure. Cool to add him to the collection because this is basically your comic accurate Aquaman for your Justice League setup or whatever you would like. Now, I do want to put him next to this 7-inch DC Direct Aquaman because they're the closest scheme I have, even though the head is different. Now, if you're looking for long hair, I do have another DC Direct, but this one has more like of a flowing hair and he doesn't have the beard. But if you want the beard look, we do have the DC Signature series where he has the harpoon on his hand and he also has that like flowing underwater hair. You also have the DC Universe Classics Original Aquaman, which is a short-haired version. And I also have a variant of this guy, which is the Flashpoint, where it just has a pretty cool color scheme and he has a scar across his face, which gives him a, grittier Aquaman look. Now, one thing I was really interested in was to give this guy a short-haired version, like an alternate head version with the short hair, because that's the Aquaman I actually prefer. Now, I tried to put this guy's head on here, but it just did not work. So what I did find was that if you have the Flash Gordon figure, it actually fits perfectly on here, and it actually does look kind of, like Aquaman, so it's not too much of a stretch. It actually looks pretty good. So if you were really wanting a short-haired version, you can actually change out the heads, and it looks really good. But for now, I'm going to keep them like this. I might do that if I get my third figure to customize from this Aquaman. Then I will probably look into doing a alternate head version for him. But for now, this is really nice. Really happy to add this guy to the collection, and he looks really good. The newer technology for the articulation is really appreciated. Looks really good. Up next, let's go ahead and take a look at the New Frontier Robin, Damian Wayne. Now, he also comes with your standard black DC Multiverse stand, his data file card, figure photography on the front, and on the back you do have some information. He comes with one accessory, which is his sword. Now, this is kind of reminiscent of the Deathstroke sword that they gave us, but it is different. It has different grips and a different sculpt on the hilt, but it looks really nice. Now let's take a look at this guy. Different head sculpt, more of a cartoonish looking head sculpt, different upper body. Now the cape is the same. I think they just removed the little spikes from the original Damian Wayne and reversed it. So it's actually the mirror of that cape, but it has the same texture underneath. Different belt, all in all, a differently sculpted figure. He does have some waist articulation, leg movement. Now this one does have double jointed elbows and double jointed knees, which is always really nice on a smaller figure. You can put the sword in his hand. Actually love the tennis shoe look that they gave him, and the texturing that's on here really shows the attention to detail that McFarlane has when he wants to. So this is actually a pretty nice looking Damian Wayne. Now we will bring out the original release, which all in all, he has his own style. I'll always like the head sculpt on this guy with that smirk on his face. But if you put them next to each other, you can see the differences. Now let's also take a look at him next to the Robin Crow. And then let's take a look at him next to my custom hooded Damian Wayne. So all in all, a really nice figure. Love the gray, monotone, kind of smooth gray texture that they put on him. But another figure that I'm really happy to add to the collection. Now we will be taking a look at the Death in the Family Joker. Now this one is really reminiscent of some DC Direct figures that I do not own, where he like cut off his face and then put it back on, like in some kind of grotesque joke. You know, it's pretty funny. He does come with your standard black DC Multiverse stand, and he does come with his Datafall card, which has figure photography and information on the back. He does come with one accessory, and that is the axe, but this to me looks more like a battle axe, even though it is in a bat shape. Cool texture, cool sculpt work that they did to the handle to add that wood grain, but it just does not really match for him. So let's go ahead and take a look at him. Love that head sculpt. That is probably the selling point for this figure. Now, he is a basic reuse of all the different parts from the three Jokers that McFarlane put out before, so that's not a big deal. It is a different color scheme, so it is kind of like a different figure, except for the... And it does give off a more eerie and sinister feeling, so that makes it all worth it. Now, the only other Joker that I have that is even like this one is this Mattel Joker, where he's carrying an axe. Now this one came with like a cut off face accessory, and it just gives off that creepy vibe the way this one does. So to me, I had this extra like regular axe laying around, and I just think it fits with his style a little better. You know, sort of like a crazy killer Joker. So that looks really good. Now you can also put him with a knife in his hand that gives the same vibe. And then let's take a look at him next to the criminal from the three Jokers, the clown from the three Jokers, and of course the comedian from the three Jokers. Now he is pretty much an anomaly of all those figures put together with a different head sculpt, but he is awesome, and I'm really glad to be adding him to the collection. Not the best design or way they should have went with this head sculpt, but all in all, I'll take it, and I'll be adding them up there to the collection. Up next, we do have the Batman Zur-En-Ah, which actually I kind of usually call Batman from Planet X. Now this is actually the one I was looking forward to the most because I love this design of Batman. Always have. I remember seeing him in the Batman the Brave and the Bold cartoon. I thought he was cool. Now Mattel did their own version of him, which is the one I have before him. And that one was cool because it actually came with a little Batmite figure. Really cool. Now he does come with your standard black DC stand, your Datafall card, On the back you have information. And he does come with 2 accessories. One is a knife, and one is his classic bat with spikes in it. Now, before we go on, people have said that, oh, I don't like all these Batmans. Like, this is crap. Like, what do I want? A clown-looking Batman? Like, you have all the negative people. But I do know that from the Foosh, Robo, this is actually his favorite rendition of the Batman. And he actually did a review on it and was really happy with it. And also, Talker did say that he does like this version of him and that eventually he'll probably be buying it for himself. Taking a look at this guy. Now, this figure was actually sneak peeked in one of Todd's videos, almost a year back. So this articulation and everything is pretty much based on the older McFarlane figures. But surprisingly, he looks up really well. And I love the head sculpt. It has a more serious, realistic look compared to this one, and the sculpt work is impeccable as always. Love the utility belt with that light yellow and all the sculpt work. Now this is another one that has no thigh cut, but you do have thigh articulation in the hip. Now the trunks, the rubber trunks that he has, allows him to actually kick up really high and move his leg back fairly well. And I love all of the sculpt stitch work that they did throughout his costume. Even the emblem has a ton of like detail that from afar you wouldn't see, but once you get it up close, it's really nice work. Love the boots. Now the articulation is limited because this is using that old ball joint, but it still looks good. And even the boots have a lot of detailed sculpt work that you have to get up there and take a look at, but it is awesome. Now, of course, everybody that knows me knows I love me some tread, and this guy definitely has some boot tread. And then in the back, the great sculpt work continues. Moving into the cape. Now the cape is pretty pliable, not too soft, but it is, you can roll it up in your hand. And it has a lot of cool sculpt work. It even has crisscrossing wrinkles in the cape, and the classic scalloped out cape cut actually gives it a ton of character and Batman. Now, this one is damaged, and this one doesn't really have any damage, but you'd have to look into the artwork from the RIP series, where this guy is the focus of. Now, of course, you can't put the knife in his hand and then give him his bat just to make him look a little bit more brutal. But all in all, a beautiful figure. I love this design of Batman, and he should be hitting stores pretty soon and shipping out pretty soon, so everybody can get their hands on this guy. He is a beautiful figure. Now, I do want to give a big shout out to Talker Art, and make sure everybody checks him out if you haven't. Really appreciate all these figures. I'm a diehard DC Multiverse McFarlane collector, and it was pretty awesome to get these figures to add them to my collection. Really appreciative of everything. So you guys keep hunting out there, keep collecting, keep customizing, and I will see you on the next one.